Hello everyone, Joel here. If you're waiting for the death of turn-based combat, you might want to pull up a chair because the genre isn't just alive, it's currently staging a violent coup against our free time. We've moved way past the era of standing in a polite line hitting dragons with sticks. Modern RPGs have evolved into high-stakes psychological warfare where one bad move makes you look like a complete idiot. This time, we will talk about some of the most perfect turn-based RPGs that have redefined the grind in recent years. Whether you're a tactical genius or someone who just likes watching cool numbers go up, these titles are the gold standard of why taking your time is actually the ultimate power move. Before we continue the video, I want to inform you that right now, there are tons of crazy deals in instant gaming, especially if you love RPG games. Remember how expensive modern gaming lately? Well, not anymore, since you can get so many amazing titles with crazy discounts in instant gaming. Can you believe that just with $10 or even less than $5, you can enjoy one of the best gaming experiences in your life? Just look at these titles. It used to cost like $30 or even more than $40. And to make things even crazier, some games even drop so far to just $1. If you're a smart guy, you know what you have to do. All you have to do is just click my link in the description below, start searching for your favorite games and use the activation code on your chosen platform. By using my link, you're not only saving tons of money, but also helping me to support this channel. Alright then, let's get back into the list. Imagine waking up and seeing your neighbors have lost their minds. Some cosmic horror is floating outside your window and a cult is actively trying to talk to it. At this point, staying inside forever sounds like a reasonable life plan, except the game won't let you. You get 15 in-game days to survive and find one of several endings, balancing scavenging runs with retreating back to your apartment before something disgusting ends your run. Combat is turn-based and carries a delightfully weird party system. Your teammates include a brewing punk duo and a live streamer who literally needs to farm viewers mid-fight to use his abilities. The writing is unsettling in the best way. The pixel art is darker than anything the SNES ever saw, and with a cheap price on top of it, it's honestly embarrassing how much game you're getting. You know that fantasy of storming a dragon's castle and finally ending that centuries-long rivalry? Yeah, Flint Buckler had the same dream, until he showed up and found the place fully remodeled into a corporate office, complete with a receptionist. Developed by the two-person team at Sleepy Castle Studio, this is essentially the Paper Mario game Nintendo refuses to make, except it also roasts LinkedIn culture and everything wrong with modern workplaces. Combat rewards well-timed button presses, the whole party shares a level letting you choose how everyone grows together, and the writing is sharp enough that you'll actually read the dialogue instead of skipping it. It runs about 20 hours, which honestly feels perfect, tight, funny, and confident throughout. Fear and Hunger 2 is not a game for everyone. Actually, it's barely for anyone. Built entirely by one Finnish developer named Miro Haverinen, Termina throws you into a 1940s backwater town called Preheville, where 14 strangers are forced into a battle royale by a grinning moon god. You have 3 days and only one person walks out. The turn-based combat lets you target specific body parts to disable enemies. And yes, they can do the same to you. Resources are brutally scarce. Your first few runs will almost certainly end in disaster, and the game is completely fine with that. What keeps pulling people back is how dense and reactive everything is. 8 playable characters, wildly different playthroughs, and a world that rewards obsessive exploration across multiple runs.
Sinners shall bleed.
Forget everything the legend told you, because in this one, you're playing as the villain. Sir Mordred, Arthur's nemesis, gets resurrected by the Lady of the Lake specifically to hunt down and finish off the king, who has apparently come back wrong and needs to be put down for good. It's dark, it's grimdark, and honestly, it kind of rules. Developed by Neocore Games, this tactical RPG sits somewhere between XCOM and Fire Emblem grid-based combat with a roster of over 30 knights you'll recruit, level up, and desperately try not to lose to permadeath. On top of that, a morality system tracks every decision you make between Christianity and the Old Faith, and those choices genuinely branch the story in different directions. A full playthrough easily crosses 50 hours, and there's even a roguelite mode if you enjoy suffering with extra steps.
You will make it. Don't you worry.
Eight characters, 8 completely separate backstories, but zero obligation to care about all of them equally. And honestly, that freedom is exactly what makes this game work. Square Enix 2023 follow-up ditches the original's biggest complaint by actually weaving its protagonist stories together, so the world feels connected rather than 8 solo campaigns awkwardly sharing the same map. The HD 2D art style remains one of the most gorgeous things in modern gaming, blending pixel sprites with dramatic lighting in a way that makes every town look like a painting you could stare at for hours. Combat builds on the break and boost system from the first game, but the addition of latent parts gives each fighter a genuinely distinct rhythm in battle. Whether you're cracking enemy shields or chaining job combinations, the tactical depth here quietly sneaks up on you. Humanity trashed Earth, packed millions of people onto a giant spacecraft headed for Proxima Centauri, and then somehow started fighting each other before even arriving. Generations later, you're born into that mess, a nobody stuck in the lower decks of a decaying ship run by 3 factions: religious zealots, authoritarian bureaucrats, and chaotic rebels. None of them are particularly great, which is honestly the point. Developed by Iron Tower Studio, this is an old-school CRPG in the truest sense. Your character build determines entire quest lines, skill checks lock you out of content permanently, and bad decisions made in Hour 1 can quietly haunt you in Hour 15. Combat is tactical and punishing, but the real meat is in how you approach every situation. Full combat, smooth talking, or sneaking past everyone entirely are all genuinely viable paths. Mewgenics is a game about breeding an army of cats and sending them into battle. From Edmund Macmillan, the guy behind The Binding of Isaac, Mewgenics is a tactical roguelite where you manage a cat-hoarding household, breed kittens from your previous party members, assign them RPG classes, and send 4 of them out to fight rats, zombie bosses, and things considerably worse in grid-based turn-based combat. The breeding system is the real secret weapon here. Traits, stats, and abilities passed down through generations, meaning every run feels like a direct consequence of every run before it. Combat alone carries hundreds of hours worth of genuinely surprising interactions and build combinations. The humor is Macmillan at his most unhinged, which is either a massive selling point or a hard pass depending entirely on your tolerance for chaos. Hawaii looks absolutely stunning as a backdrop for a midlife crisis, and Ichiban Kasuga is here to prove it. The 8th mainline entry in the series lands in Honolulu with an absurd amount of ambition, not just continuing Ichiban's story from Yakuza Like a Dragon, but also bringing back Kazuma Kiryu for one of the most emotionally heavy storylines the franchise has ever attempted. The turn-based combat gets a massive upgrade this time, letting characters physically move around the battlefield before acting, which adds a genuine layer of positioning strategy that the first game was missing. Jobs return and expand wildly. At one point, you can make your party members into a literal influencer or a samurai, and the combination possibilities are deep enough to keep tinkerers busy for hours. Outside of combat, the sheer density of side content is almost criminal, from Palworld-style monster catching to full mini-golf. Some games are so beloved that even repackaging them in a slightly nicer box is enough to make grown adults emotional. Konami finally did the right thing and brought both classic RPGs back in a single remaster package with cleaned up visuals, updated UI, and quality of life features that make the notoriously dense experience far more approachable than the originals. The real draw, though, has always been the 108 Stars of Destiny, a recruitment system that fills your castle with a genuinely massive roster of characters, each with their own story, combat role, and reasons for joining your cause. Suikoden 2 especially holds up as one of the tightest political narratives in JRPG history, built around war, betrayal, and a friendship that hits harder than most games ever manage.
In the name of justice, I call upon
Atlus looked at Persona 5 and apparently decided the bar needed raising. Metaphor ReFantazio is their first completely original fantasy world in decades, and it shows in every corner of the game. You're chasing a royal election across a sprawling kingdom divided by a deeply uncomfortable caste system built around fantasy races. And the political commentary hits with way more weight than you'd expect from a game that also has you fighting monsters in a dungeon. The press-turn combat system returns from the Shin Megami Tensei lineage but gets layered with archetypes, job system where characters equip class roles that can be freely mixed, mastered, and passed between party members for devastating combinations. The presentation is also ridiculous. Every menu transition, every battle animation, and every loading screen feels like it was directed by someone who genuinely cannot stop.
You think yourself equal to a Yu-Chief's agility? Face me! Some darker arts. Formidable indeed.
Trails Beyond the Horizon is the 13th game in a series with an unbroken shared continuity spanning over 20 years. Jumping in here without the previous entries is less like missing a few episodes and more like walking into someone else's family reunion where everyone has a complicated history you'll never fully understand. That said, for the people who've been riding this train since Trails in the Sky, Beyond the Horizon is the series firing on all cylinders. Nihon Falcom takes 3 separate storylines, including a long-awaited return of fan-favorite Rian Schwarzer, and weaves them toward one of the biggest narrative payoffs the franchise has ever delivered. Combat gets meaningful upgrades through ZOC mechanics and reposition shard commands, keeping even veteran players genuinely engaged. Clocking in around 100 hours with an additional roguelite dungeon that's practically a game within itself, this one rewards every single hour of investment. If Metaphor ReFantazio is Atlus showing off their flashiest suit, then Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is them quietly sharpening a knife in the corner. The expanded and definitive version of 2021's Shin Megami Tensei 5 arrives with an entirely new story route called the Canon of Vengeance, roughly doubling the content and fixing the original's biggest criticism, that its narrative felt thin and underdeveloped. The premise stays delightfully unhinged. A Japanese high schooler falls into a post-apocalyptic Tokyo overrun by demons and merges with a mysterious being called Aogami to survive. From there, it's negotiating with demons, absorbing them into your army, and building the most broken fusion combinations you can manage. The difficulty is brutal and unapologetic, demanding genuine strategic thinking rather than button mashing. Trails in the Sky first chapter is where it all began, and also where the series quietly drops an anchor into your soul that takes decades to fully pull free. Originally released back in 2004 in Japan, and finally reaching Western shores years later, the 2025 remake brings Nihon Falcom's foundational story to modern platforms with fully voiced dialogue, reworked visuals, and quality of life improvements that make the legendary slow burn considerably more comfortable. You play as Estelle Bright, a trainee bracer traveling across the Kingdom of Liberl with her adopted brother Joshua, and what starts as a charming coming-of-age adventure quietly builds one of the most meticulously constructed worlds in JRPG history, where every NPC has a name, a routine, and opinions that actually update as the story progresses. There is genuinely no polite way to tell someone that one of the most beloved JRPGs ever made is about a group of teenagers who summon their inner power by shooting themselves in the head. Persona 3 Reload is a full ground-up remake of the 2006 classic, and Atlus didn't just slap a fresh coat of paint on it. Every dungeon floor, every social interaction, every piece of dialogue got rebuilt with the production quality of Persona 5 Royal as the clear benchmark. Tartarus, the endlessly generated dungeon that once felt like a chore, is now genuinely engaging to climb. The social link system remains one of the smartest ways any RPG has tied narrative investment to mechanical reward, and the themes of mortality and accepting the inevitable hit harder than most games ever dare to attempt.
Don't slow down!
Calm down.
Most people know Monster Hunter as the series where you spend 40 minutes carving up a dragon to make yourself a hat, and that's still valid, but Stories 3 takes a completely different angle. Instead of hunting monsters, you're befriending them, hatching them from eggs, building out their gene boards, and restoring entire ecosystems one species at a time. It sounds wholesome, and it mostly is, though the mechanical depth hiding underneath that friendly exterior is genuinely staggering. The rock-paper-scissors combat gets layered with elemental weaknesses, individual body part targeting, a separate Wyvern Soul gauge to deplete for stuns, and 6 swappable weapons with distinct mechanics. Meanwhile, the gene customization system rewards obsessive tinkering without ever punishing casual players.
Now's your chance. This'll do it.
Leave it to me!
Watch out!
If you've ever wanted to experience a Shakespearean tragedy where the actors are adorable sprites who can also summon literal meteors, welcome to your new obsession. This isn't just a dusty relic from 1997 with a fresh coat of paint, it's a masterclass in how a turn-based RPG can actually respect your brain. You're navigating the political landmines of Ivalice as Ramza, a noble who quickly realizes that honor is often just a fancy word for getting stabbed in the back by your own family. The real magic, though, is the job system, a glorious rabbit hole of customization where you can turn a humble chemist into a teleporting mat-slinging god of destruction. This remaster finally fixes those agonizingly slow spell charge times, meaning your mages actually hit targets before they hit death of the universe. Between the poetry of the rewritten script and the brutal tactician difficulty, it's a perfect reminder that some classics don't just age, they wait for everyone else to catch up. Trails to Azure is the direct continuation of Trails from Zero, meaning playing this without its predecessor is essentially cracking open Book 2 of a duology and wondering why you don't know anyone. Do yourself a favor and play Zero first. With that out of the way, Azure is widely considered the emotional peak of the entire Crossbell arc, delivering narrative twists that hit considerably harder precisely because you've spent an entire game already caring about this city and its people. The combat gets meaningful upgrades through Master Quartz customization and the burst system, a mechanic that briefly lets your whole party unleash uninterrupted zero cast time chaos on bosses at the absolute worst moment for them. It's tense, it's rewarding, and the finale lands with the kind of weight that makes you immediately reach for the next game. Every year, a mysterious entity called the Paintress writes a number, and everyone alive at that age simply dies. Expedition 33 is the latest group sent to stop her, yet despite their valiant efforts, nobody has ever come back. That premise alone is striking enough, but what Sandfall Interactive built around it is genuinely one of the most impressive debut RPGs ever made. The combat demands real-time parries and timed attacks layered over a deep turn-based system, rewarding mechanical skill alongside strategic thinking in a way that feels completely fresh. Visually, it runs on Unreal Engine 5 with an art direction that looks like surrealist paintings given life, and the orchestral score rivals Nier Automata for sheer emotional impact. Compact at 25 hours, deliberate in every scene, and impossible to shake afterward.
Ready to go.
Choice but to keep going.
There's a reason this one broke the internet, won every award in sight, and convinced people who hadn't touched an RPG in years to suddenly sink 200 hours into a single playthrough. Larian Studios built something that genuinely feels alive, a D&D campaign where almost every decision ripples outward in ways you won't fully understand until much later, sometimes catastrophically. You start with a mind flare parasite burrowing into your skull, and it only gets stranger from there. The turn-based combat rewards creativity above all else. Grease the floor, ignite it, throw someone into it, and discover whether that was a good idea. 11 races, 12 classes, and enough branching dialogue that two people comparing playthroughs sound like they experience completely different games. Characters are written with enough depth that watching them fail feels genuinely gutting. It's messy in places, occasionally buggy, and absolutely unmissable, the kind of game that quietly resets your expectations for everything afterward. For the uninitiated, Warhammer 40k is a universe where everything is grimdark. Everyone is probably dying, the space religion is absolutely unhinged, and somehow that's considered a good day. Owlcat Games took that universe and built a classic isometric CRPG inside it, casting you as a rogue trader, one of the few individuals in the Imperium with enough power and legal authority to basically do whatever they want at the edges of known space. That freedom bleeds directly into the gameplay. Your choices shape not just the story, but the very ideology your crew operates under, pulling between Imperial faith, Xenos alliances, and outright heresy. The turn-based tactical combat leans heavily into the tabletop rule set, rewarding builds that understand how the systems interact. It launched rough, but patches have since transformed it into one of the deepest CRPGs in recent memory.
Was that you? Or...
Alright boys, I think that's it for today. I know that there are other games that I haven't mentioned yet, so how about sharing your favorite that probably deserve the spot in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss another great list. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Peace.